Okay, basically, I'm picking a simple sound to get started. I'll probably be picking some chords that I like, and so a simple, clean sound makes it easier to hear the tone of the chords without too much messiness going on. And it's just kind of a preference thing for me personally. And so I tend to gravitate towards like a synth pluck or what's up, Parker? I tend to gravitate towards like a synth pluck or maybe a guitar or organic pluck, something like that. That's pretty simple, pretty clean sound, and go from there. A lot of times I'll end up changing it depending on where the melody's going. Hey, Valid Point Music, thanks for the follow. This sounds pretty cool. It's not as clean as I was planning to choose initially, honestly, but we'll go with it. I usually have very little in my head before I get going, other than maybe like I want it to be more happy sounding or more sad sounding, which honestly, like, the trick to that is if you want it to be more happy, the easiest way to do that I found is like literally go up the scale as you progress, and if you want it to be more sad, then go down the scale as you go. And I already hate the sound, to be honest, but we'll stick with it for now. Maybe it'll get us to try something different just because it sounds weird. Okay, I'm not entirely sure here. I'm hearing something going this way maybe. Just kind of repeating. And then changing it up for the next couple bars. Okay, let's pick a different sound real quick because this one's too thin maybe. I don't know, I want a little more tone, I guess, out of it. I don't really know what it is. I don't like it, I just want to try some different stuff. This one's cool actually, I like this one. I kind of like this, but I actually want it to be like maybe more distorted. Maybe we'll try adding some distortion on it. Okay, we'll do like a little bit of a test here to see if this is going anywhere. That I do sometimes, and it's just adding like a two-step hi-hat and a snare or something to see if I can hear any like bounce or anything in the melody. This tempo is actually like pretty crazy. Like I can kind of hear some 808 stuff going on in my head. And I don't usually use this low of speed. What else can we add to the melody here? Like honestly, it could go somewhere with just this, but I think I want to add maybe another layer or two just to give it the ability to change up as the song goes on. Just being able to swap out some layers really can keep things interesting throughout the beat. And we're kind of filling up this mid-range a lot, so we might try something up a little bit in a higher range, and I guess that could be a more plucky synth, or maybe more like a synth bell or something. And then alternatively, we could do some like more full sounding chords to kind of fill it in. A lot of times that is a nice way to smooth and fill in the gaps, and then you can drop out those chords right before like a hook or something, and the drums, it seems to make the drums have a little more impact than when like a lot of it just drops out and it's like drums and a pretty basic melody pattern. So kind of a good build-up option. We'll start with like a bell though, and everything I'm saying is just like stuff that I do, stuff that I've tried or have liked in the past, and so it's all just mostly stuff that I've tried or played around with and maybe like. There's no rules. I'm at risk of making it sound really sad though. Like right now it could go maybe a little bit hype, but with some of this bell stuff, I'm at risk of just making it sound real lonely. So I might have to be careful of that because I don't know if I want to do that entirely, even though that's what I usually do. Trying to think. I'm kind of trying to listen in my head and see if I hear where a kind of melody line could go, maybe a counter melody. This isn't really that much of a melody, honestly. It's just kind of like almost like a chord progression, but they're just like arpeggiated. And then I've got some basic melody stuff going on down here. This bell isn't really giving me good higher tones. Oh, there we go. It was just low velocity, I guess. It's still sounding sad. I'm just getting like mellow and sad. I think I salvaged it. Now I'm kind of wanting to add some stuff in here and just see what it sounds like. So I wasn't planning to do this. This was gonna just stay a melody, but I kind of am having a hard time helping myself from adding a little bit more. So I'm trying to take some low end out of these instruments just because the 808 feels like it's not. I wonder if it's clashing with some of these lower frequencies out of the instruments. So I'm toning those down a little bit to see if it improves the 808 tone. I'm adding a second EQ on this guy. So I don't know, in FL, if you EQ like this, sounds still get through, like you can still see frequencies coming through. So I typically use this guy, this cut, if I'm trying to cut something out completely. And then I do a separate EQ if I'm wanting to like just tone back some volume, because I want those notes to still come through a little bit. So let's stop thinking about the drums here for a minute and actually just listen to the melody and see what we would need, because if I'm gonna send this melody out to somebody, is this enough, or do we want to add something more to it? What I'll probably actually do is lay these out in the playlist and see what's missing, like do a little bit of an intro and stuff like that, and see where we want to add something else to it. That's too thin for an intro. That's only gonna work for like a dropout for a little bit, I think. Or maybe like a dropout with drums. But for intro, it's too thin, I think. This is better, I think, because this instrument fills out the space a little bit better. And this is kind of a counter melody, so it's maybe better to bring that in over here. And then here, I think, is where we would maybe add like a pad. And then drop that out. And then come back in for like a hook, maybe? I'm not entirely sure, but let's try and add something more here. Maybe it would be like a synth bass, but usually I shy away from adding synth basses in my melodies just because, I don't know, I kind of leave that to whoever's making the beat to decide if they want to put that in more. So I'm more likely to add like a pad or something to maybe dabble in the lower frequencies, but not like fully commit to a synth bass. So let's find something, and we'll probably just use like the chords from this guy. But we'll not have them be like this. We'll stretch them out full length, I think. And here I'm looking for something probably fairly thin. just playing around with like the chord voicings. I don't know if that's the correct term, but moving some notes up and down a little bit. It sounded really thin and tinny, but also super loud where it was, so I brought it down here, and it feels a lot more natural and ambient. It like fills out the space a little bit without standing out, which is what I was hoping for. Oh sweet, we can take out that pluck, which is awesome, because otherwise we had that going the whole time, but it just felt too much with this. We might actually not bring that back in yet. We might do something like this. One thing I'm thinking is we could do some octave stuff, and we can also play around with some halftime stuff to switch it up. Like right here, I might, or we could even play this here and have it be like pitched down an octave or half-timed. See, that's pretty cool. Let's maybe throw the drums back in and see how this part goes. Yeah, I'm a little unsure how I want some of this to structure, and we're maybe overthinking it at this point, but maybe we'll learn something or come up with an idea here. Because I'm thinking pretty much no drums here, or pretty simple drums, and then we would bring in almost like a drop right here. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't think we need that, that's maybe too much. It feels kind of slow, like we're already 30 seconds in before we get to much drums, so realistically, I wouldn't normally like to do that in a beat. It feels thin right here though, for some reason. I feel like it's missing something, don't you think? Maybe we bring in some, like a 50% mix on the halftime for this guy. Let's just try that. No, that's gross. Maybe this is what it should be, but first of all though, like this part repeats twice. Normally I wouldn't do that. Maybe I would start with... No, I can't have that be the intro. It feels like this is about right though, as far as the layout. Like, and honestly, you could just about repeat this a couple times. This second part here. I don't know, kind of feels like verses though. Fruity Free Filter. What is that? Is that like a plugin? Because I've only used like EQ for like low pass filter stuff. Oh, this is cool. What's Q? Q is the frequency that gets the cool sounding underwater effect. And I think I need to do some like subtractive EQ maybe, or play around with that distortion, because some of those are a little harsh, some frequencies. So I could have literally just copied this one. Which, by the way, like if you don't know how to do that, you can literally double click on this, copy state, double click on this, paste state, and it matches the two. I want a little bit of that bell coming through. Some harshness here, maybe we can find and cut that out now. That's better. I'm thinking maybe like some chord stabs for right here or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but we might play around with it for a second. For these chords, I want something a little bit snappy, like a little bit plucky maybe. I don't think I want them to be very sustained. This is weird. Whoa, that was a lot. I can't even tell if those are the right notes, to be honest. Let's drop some other sounds out and see if we can make sure we're on the right notes that we want. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it yet. I think I might look for different sounds too. It's just too much. It's like really heavy sound or something. I like the fullness of this sound, but I don't like how much it sustains. That's kind of cool. That might be it. Thank you for that suggestion, by the way, Penguino. This filter really adds a great change in energy that you don't get like that swing in energy unless you bring it down like that much and are able to do that big of a change up. Really makes it hit harder. I like it a lot. So once I have a pretty good layout, I start thinking a little bit about width. So when I'm like picking sounds and when I'm picking kind of melody lines, I'm thinking about the frequency spectrum a little bit. Once I get to my mixing phase, I start thinking about like width of sounds and how wide these are, and and also kind of where they're situated left and right. And I don't do too much extreme left and right stuff unless I have two similar sounds in a competing frequency. Like if I have two guitars, I'll pan one left and one right quite a bit, but for sounds like these where I have two sounds next to each other a lot of times, I don't like doing that too much. I tend to do one sound maybe more narrow and one sound a little bit wider, and it's just kind of whichever one I feel like should be wider. But that kind of helps the melody sound a little bit more full, I feel like, and less stacked on top of each other, a little more naturally mixed maybe. So this is the one, it's already got some reverb on it seems like, but this is the one I'd probably go a little bit further, adding a little more width. It's a little more background. Now I'm mixing it down a little bit. Here the synth pad is probably going to be the widest, the thing I want to widen up a little bit. The others, when it's like a melody line like that, pretty distinct melody line, I usually don't make them too wide. But the pad is a great option to just kind of widen out and fill up the whole stereo space. And then I want it sounds to feel full for the most part. I don't want any sound to feel like it's sticking out too much, and I kind of like to have a clear front runner melody line. So in my mind, the synth pluck here is a little more background. The synth pad is very background and just ambient. The electric guitar, which is not an electric guitar, it's like the pipe sounding stuff, is going to be pretty background as well. And these are going to be a little bit more in the front for me. And that's just kind of how I'm hearing it. So I'm leaning into it a little bit. So this plugin is free, by the way, this iZotope ozone imager. I used to just do this guy right here for wide and mono. But this ozone imager actually gives you a lot more range, I think. So I started transitioning to mostly just using this almost entirely. Gives you a little bit more, a few more options, I guess, to play with and just see like what you like. When we widen it out that much, though, usually we have to turn it back down a little bit. And the bell is a little bit harsh. I might turn down some of the high frequencies. For me, those higher frequencies can really start like getting to my head, especially if you listen to it very long or very loud. So I try to be a little bit sensitive of like those higher pitches. I guess I am a little bit sensitive to them. At this point, I'm pretty happy with how it's put together and mixed. Probably what I will do though is I'll just bounce an MP3, and when I listen without looking at this, like I usually like whenever I have a project and make almost any progress whatsoever, even if we only had like these two parts here, like this one 8-bar loop, I would bounce that down to an MP3 so that later I can listen to it just clicking on the MP3. And for some reason, like I listen to stuff a little bit differently when I can't see everything laid out in front of me. Like I'm not expecting these to come in after 8 bars. I'm not expecting the filter, stuff like that, so I can kind of listen a little more fresh. Hopefully I've kind of forgotten what it sounds like altogether. And so I definitely recommend doing that, like the next day listen kind of thing. Personally, I really like doing that, and then I tend to get ideas and I'll a lot of times open up the project and turn some stuff down or move some stuff around, but it's kind of something I enjoy doing. You can literally close your eyes when you open a project. Same thing. I'll show, I guess, my method for how I would actually export these real quick. Since I'm kind of talking through my process anyways, I might as well just kind of go through the last step. I don't just do the Control R export thing anymore, because if you Control R, and I have had this happen before, if you Control R, sometimes the export has some weird stuff, glitches, or pops or sounds kind of cutting out. And so I've not noticed that when I use Edison. I think it's generally a cleaner export. That's the main reason. That's actually one of the two main reasons. The other reason is you can normalize it so that it's a good volume without peaking and without being super quiet, and it kind of just, all of your melodies will be a similar volume. Obviously if you have one sound mixed way loud and the other's way quiet, then it doesn't change that for you. But if all your mixes are fairly consistent, then all of your volumes of your melody loops that you export should be fairly consistent as well. And that was a big deal for me because I used to try and get them all to like hit -3 dB or something like that, and that just took extra time, or I had to like soft clip or limit or something, which was a pain and I didn't really like doing. If you just arm to record on the master, go to disk recording, render to WAV files. I cut remainder just because I think that's easier when you're chopping up a loop to not have that tail on the end of the melody. You see it snap exactly to the BPM grid. So then it just exports it here to the playlist. Can double click on it, right click, edit in audio editor, delete this loop thing here. Sometimes you have to stretch this guy out to get all the options, especially if you're on a small screen. You can click this normalize button, and that's what I was talking about. See, it makes it a little bit louder for me. Honestly, I probably should go through it and see what this peak is. Maybe I can tone these peaks down a little bit and just have the whole melody be a little bit louder as a whole. That might be something I come back and do later. You can go in here, right click on this and edit the save information, which I'll do real quick, and then there's an option to add metadata in there, which is also huge and I forgot about till just now. If you're sending waves, this is a good way to like embed the metadata into the wave file. That way your contact info is in there if the loop gets passed around or something and somebody's trying to find out where it came from. Hopefully they can check the metadata and see your info in there. Okay, I hit tempo sync in there. I'm not entirely sure what that does, to be honest. I just seen other people do that. One thing I'll show you with the metadata, you can actually fill that in. I need to update that for this template. If you noticed, it was filled in and I just deleted some stuff out. If you go to general settings, or settings, I think it's, yeah, here it is. That pulls from here. So yeah, you can just update that here and then it'll automatically show up there. Next, we can just save. It's gonna automatically put it in the FL Studio Audio recorded, but I don't want it there. I want it saved with my project. I don't know, I guess I just need like a different hotkey for my mic. Alrighty, I'm gonna call it a night. Hopefully there was something that you I don't know if you learned anything, but maybe got some ideas or want to try some stuff out later. I know I learned something, this free filter. Appreciate you watching, man, and anybody else who's still watching, appreciate you, and I'll see you next time, hopefully.